Ethan Cole wasn't supposed to be home that night, yet his black Cadillac rolled up the driveway hours early, driven by a feeling he couldn't name. But nothing prepared him for the sound waiting inside. His son's laughter. Real laughter. And when he followed it to the old garage, he froze at the sight of the maid's daughter doing the unthinkable with his boy. The sun was sinking behind the tall pines when the black Cadillac rolled to a silent stop outside the iron gate of the Cole estate. The sky glowed a deep burnt orange, streaked with violet, as if the day itself were holding its breath. Ethan Cole tightened his grip on the steering wheel. He hadn't planned to be here. Not yet. Not today. But something had been gnawing at him for weeks, a quiet disturbance he couldn't name. So he drove home 4 hours early without telling a soul. The gate recognized his license plate and opened with a slow, mechanical sigh. He guided the Cadillac down the stone driveway, its engine barely a whisper. Ethan was known for many things: brilliance, control, a taste for precision, but surprises were not one of them. He did not like being surprised, and he liked even less the feeling that someone inside his home might be surprising him. As the mansion came into view, its tall windows glowing faintly in the dusk, Ethan felt a pinch in his chest, an echo of something he couldn't quite shake. The staff had been acting strangely lately. Conversations hushed when he entered. Doors closed faster than usual. And the cameras, his cameras, the ones wired into every inch of this estate, had begun shutting off at random times. No explanation. No error logs. Just darkness. Most troubling of all was Liam. His son had pulled further into himself, disappearing behind quiet nods and half-finished sentences. At 11, Liam had endured more pain than most grown men. The accident 2 years ago had taken his mother, shattered his spine, and left him facing a world that suddenly felt too big, too unforgiving. Since then, the boy's laughter, once the soundtrack of this home, had faded into memory, replaced by the soft hum of medical machines and the whispers of physical therapists who no longer believed he'd stand on his own. Ethan slowed the car to a stop just outside the front steps. He turned off the engine. For a moment, he sat there, listening to the ticking of cooling metal. Somewhere inside this house was an answer. To what? He didn't yet know. But he intended to find it. He stepped out, the gravel crunching beneath his shoes. The air smelled faintly of pine sap and early autumn. Ethan reached for the front door, slipping his key into the lock even though the system was already programmed for his fingerprints. It wasn't paranoia. It was habit. Old, familiar, comforting habit. Inside, the foyer greeted him with its usual polished silence. Marble floors, glass chandeliers, tall mirrors reflecting a man whose face held more exhaustion than he ever allowed the public to see. He loosened his tie, listening. Silence. A silence too perfect. He took a few careful steps, scanning each corner. Nothing seemed out of place. No footsteps. No staff. No sign of... Then he heard it. A sound so out of place, so impossible that he stopped mid-stride. Laughter. Not polite laughter. Not the thin, forced sound Liam used when therapists tried to coax a reaction. This was bright, full, effortless. A child's laughter, rising and falling like a small, unrestrained song. Ethan's heart thudded once, hard. No, it couldn't be. He followed the sound down the hallway, past framed paintings and tall drapes. Each step grew heavier, faster, as if the laughter itself were pulling him forward by the collar. His ears sharpened. The sound was coming from the garage, the old one near the back of the house. No one used it anymore. It should have been empty. But there it was again. Laughter, mixed with a faint beat of music. Something upbeat, something youthful. Something that absolutely did not belong in his meticulously controlled home. Ethan paused at the corner, breath caught in his throat. His mind ran in terrified circles. He had heard recordings of Liam laughing before the accident, but the real sound, the live, present, undeniable sound, felt like a ghost brushing past him, a memory rising from the dead. No, not a memory, a reality. He reached out, steadying himself against the wall. His fingers trembled. For the first time in years, he wasn't sure what waited for him on the other side of a door. A miracle? A mistake? A danger? He forced himself to move closer. The garage door, usually shut, locked, and untouched, was cracked open just an inch, enough for a sliver of warm yellow light to spill into the dim hallway, enough for the laughter to spill with it. Ethan swallowed, feeling his chest tighten. He didn't dare breathe too loud. Liam. Laughing? With who? He placed his hand on the doorknob. Cold metal. Too cold. He pushed gently, just enough to widen the gap, and what he saw beyond that thin line of light made his entire world shift. The garage, once a cold and forgotten room filled with storage boxes and unused tools, was now glowing with a soft, yellow warmth from an old standing lamp someone had dragged in. Dust floated through the beam like drifting snowflakes. The faint thump of a hip-hop beat played from a tiny Bluetooth speaker sitting on an overturned paint can. And in the middle of that makeshift arena, Liam, his son, was moving, not rolling, not being pushed, moving. Ethan froze, his breath locked somewhere between awe and fear. Liam's thin arms clung to the metal rails of a small training walker, the kind therapists had said would only frustrate him and shouldn't be used unsupervised. Yet here Liam was, bracing his feet carefully on the concrete floor, trying to shift his weight like a baby deer finding its balance. But he wasn't alone. Maya Walker, Denise's 16-year-old daughter, stood directly in front of him. She moved backward one small step at a time, her palms open, guiding him without touching, her eyes glued to his legs. Her braids swung lightly each time she nodded encouragement. That's it, Liam. Easy. Just breathe. Yeah, just like that, she whispered, smiling so wide it lit up the entire room. Near their feet, white chalk marks streaked across the concrete, tiny arrows, dotted lines, and a finish line drawn like a child's dream of a racetrack. The chalk dust covered Maya's jeans, her hands, even a smudge across her cheek. She looked like she'd crawled through a construction site of hope. Ethan's heart hammered against his ribs. It wasn't the walker that stunned him. It wasn't even the fact that Liam was upright. It was the laughter. Liam, his quiet, grieving boy, was laughing. The kind of laugh that came from deep inside. The kind Ethan hadn't heard since before the accident. A laugh unburdened by phantoms. A laugh that sounded like sunlight. Ethan pushed the door another inch, unable to stop himself. Liam didn't see him. The child was too focused, too determined, gripping the rails until his knuckles turned pale. Maya stepped back again, raising her voice over the music. Come on, champ. 3 more steps. Just 3. You hit that line and I'm buying you ice cream when my mama gets her paycheck. Liam breathed hard. Sweat dampened the collar of his t-shirt. His small legs trembled like old branches in the wind. But he took a step. A real, clean, intentional step. His right foot slid forward, heel touching down first. Maya's face lit up like she'd just watched a miracle unfold. And maybe she had. Yes, that's 1. You got 2 more in you? She said softly. Liam's giggle bubbled out again, soft at first, then louder, breaking into pure joy. Ethan's throat tightened. That sound, that beautiful sound, wrapped around him like a warm blanket he didn't know he'd been freezing without. But then he noticed something else. The security camera mounted high on the garage wall was covered by a faded denim jacket. Maya's, judging by the stitched patch of a cartoon sunflower on its back. She'd thrown it over the lens with surprising precision, as if she knew exactly how to stay unseen. Ethan's pulse spiked. Why? Why would she hide this from him? His eyes darted back to the children. Maya had backed up all the way to the chalk finish line now, opening her arms like a coach welcoming her star player home. "That's it, Liam. One more, just one more. Come to me," she cheered. Liam took a shaky breath. His left leg dragged slightly before lifting. He leaned forward. For a heartbeat, he looked free. Then the walker rattled. The metal legs scraped against the floor as Liam swayed dangerously to one side. Maya lunged forward without hesitation, grabbing the walker with both hands before he toppled over. Liam burst into another round of laughter, nervous, breathless, exhilarated. "See? I got you," Maya said, laughing with him. "I always got you, okay? You're stronger than you think." Ethan's hand tightened on the doorknob. Stronger than you think. He remembered those words. They were the last thing his wife ever whispered to Liam before she kissed his forehead and stepped into that car. The memory hit like a blade of cold wind. He shook it off, swallowing hard. Maya released the walker gently and brushed Liam's hair from his eyes. "Want to rest a second before we try again?" she asked. Liam shook his head fiercely. "No! I want to do it! I want to reach the line!" His voice, full, confident, alive, echoed in Ethan's bones. He felt something inside him crack open. Hope? Fear? He couldn't tell the difference anymore. Maya grinned. "Then let's go, superstar. Take your time. I'll be right here." She stepped backward again. And that was when the speaker skipped. The music stuttered, then resumed louder, causing Liam to flinch and stumble. The walker wobbled. Maya reached for him. Liam pitched forward. Ethan reacted on instinct. He shoved the door open with a force that sent it slamming into the wall. The echo thundered through the garage, ripping the laughter clean out of the air. Maya's head snapped up. Liam froze, mid-fall, gripping the rails. And Ethan Cole, the man known for never losing composure, lost every shred of it in that single moment. The slam of the door ricocheted through the garage like a gunshot, vibrating through metal, concrete, and bone. The speaker crackled in protest as Maya's hand jerked back from the walker. Chalk dust lifted off the ground from the force of the sound, drifting upward like pale smoke. For a beat, no one breathed. Liam clung to the walker, knuckles white, chest rising and falling in sharp, frightened bursts. His legs trembled under him, not from effort now, but from the shock of his father's voice when it finally erupted. "What is going on here?" The words dropped like a hammer, shaking the fragile world the children had built in this forgotten room. The tension in Ethan's shoulders made him look taller, harsher, like a shadow swallowing the warm lamplight. Maya stumbled a step backward, eyes wide. The chalk on her cheek, once playful, now looked like a mark of guilt. She held her hands up instinctively, as though facing a storm she had no shelter from. I was just," she whispered. But Ethan wasn't hearing words. His gaze locked on Liam, who was fighting to keep upright, legs already buckling. In 2 long strides, Ethan was beside him, gripping his son's arms, too tight, too sudden. "Sit down," Ethan barked. "Now, before you hurt yourself." The walker scraped painfully against the floor as Ethan maneuvered his son toward the nearby stool. Liam stumbled into the seat, breath shaking. His small hands clutched his father's wrist, not in comfort, but in fear. Once Liam was seated, Ethan turned on Maya fully. His voice was lower now, but sharper, colder, more dangerous than the shout. "Explain yourself," he demanded. "Right now." Maya's lips trembled. She opened her mouth, but only a soundless breath escaped. The yellow lamp behind her cast a long, thin shadow at her feet, making her look even smaller than she was. I was helping him," she finally managed. Ethan's eyes narrowed, disbelief twisting through his features. Helping him. Helping? Do you have any idea how reckless this is? Maya blinked rapidly, her breath catching. He asked me to. He asked? Ethan cut her off, laughing once in disbelief. He's 11. You don't take orders from a child. You don't decide what's best for him, and you certainly don't put him in danger like this. Maya stepped forward, but the weight of Ethan's glare pinned her in place. Sir, he wanted to try walking. He said he felt. You don't touch my son, Ethan thundered. The words cracked the air. They echoed in the corners of the garage, sinking like ice into the pit of Maya's stomach. Her fingers curled into her palms. She lowered her gaze, not because she agreed, not at all, but because she'd grown up learning to shrink herself when powerful men raised their voices. It was a reflex built from years of staying quiet to keep her mother's job safe. Ethan didn't stop. You think this is a game? He snapped, gesturing at the chalk lines, the lamp, the speaker. You think my garage is your playground? You think my son, my only son, should be your experiment? Maya swallowed hard. Her voice, small but steady, finally pushed its way forward. No, sir. I was just trying to help him smile. Smile? Ethan repeated, as though the word itself offended him. He turned back toward Liam. The boy sat frozen on the stool, staring at the floor. The laughter that had filled the room minutes ago had dissolved into the heavy fog of fear and humiliation. Why didn't you tell me about this? Ethan asked him. Liam didn't answer. He couldn't. His throat worked silently, trying to form words that refused to come. His shoulders hunched, not from pain, but from shame. The kind children feel when joy is snatched out of their hands. Ethan's chest tightened at the sight, but instead of softening, his fear fed his anger. He faced Maya again, pointing at the covered camera. You hid this from me. You covered the lens. His voice dropped lower, quieter, but somehow more frightening. Why? Maya hesitated, then whispered, Because I knew you wouldn't let him try. Ethan stepped toward her. Damn right I wouldn't. Maya flinched. Silence pressed in around them, thick and suffocating. The speaker hummed faintly in the background before the song ended, leaving only the buzz of the old lamp and the faint rustle of wind outside the garage door. Finally, Maya's voice cracked through the quiet. He just wanted to feel normal for a little while. The words struck something deep, something Ethan wasn't prepared to face. But instead of unraveling, he clung to anger like a life raft. Normal? Ethan hissed. He can't just decide to be normal. Maya's chin lifted just an inch, barely defiance, more like desperation. Maybe he can't, but he can try. He asked me to help him. He trusts me. Ethan stiffened. Trust. The word pressed against a bruised part of him. Liam finally whispered, voice thin as a thread, Dad, I wanted to. The small confession was enough to silence the room again. Ethan didn't look at his son. Not directly. His jaw worked, muscles twitching. You could have fallen, he muttered. You could have hurt yourself again. Liam's eyes glistened with a grief older than any child should carry. Dad, I'm already hurt. Maya closed her eyes, the truth of that statement stabbing through her. Ethan, however, recoiled as though the words had slapped him. For a moment, the weight of 2 years pressed down on all three of them. Grief, guilt, loneliness, all tangled into a knot that none of them knew how to loosen. The garage felt colder now. The lamp flickered. Maya took a toe, small step forward, voice trembling. Mr. Cole, he was doing so well. You didn't see it. He took 3 steps. Ethan snapped his gaze to her, and nearly fell. But he didn't. Maya's voice rose, a burst of courage she didn't expect. I was right there. I wasn't going to let him fall. Her eyes shone with something deeper than fear, something like fierce loyalty. Ethan stared at her, startled by the strength behind her words. For one brief moment, he hesitated. But then Liam shifted on the stool, and the movement snapped Ethan back into his hardened shell. "This ends now," he said. "Do you understand?" Maya's breath hitched. She looked at Liam, his small frame, his trembling legs, his eyes begging her not to leave him alone in this. But she had no choice. She nodded, just once because it was the only thing she could do without breaking. Ethan's voice echoed through the garage, final and merciless. "You are never to bring my son in here again." Liam let out a sound, half gasp, half protest, but the rest of his words were swallowed by the tension filling the room. And silently, painfully, Maya stepped away from the chalk finish line she had drawn with so much hope. The warmth that had filled the garage only minutes earlier leaked away like air from a punctured tire. The little space that had been alive with music, courage, and childish triumph now felt hollow, cold enough that it echoed with every small movement. The lamp flickered overhead, casting long, broken shadows across the chalk lines. It looked like the joy in the room hadn't just been smothered, it had been erased. Maya's hands, still dusted white with chalk, hovered in front of her as if unsure where to rest. She kept her eyes locked on the floor. She didn't dare look at Ethan again. She didn't dare look at Liam either, not when she knew his disappointment would be too heavy to bear. Ethan stood tall, rigid, every muscle in his jaw clenched. He didn't shout now. He didn't have to. His silence alone carried the weight of a verdict already passed. "Maya," he said finally, his voice low and controlled, "you need to leave this room." Maya blinked. Her throat bobbed as she swallowed. "Yes, sir." She turned, taking one slow step toward the door. Her shoes dragged across the concrete, smearing the chalk lines she had drawn with so much care. For a moment, her foot hovered over the bright white finish line, the one she'd promised Liam he could reach. And then she stepped through it, not crossing it in victory, but erasing it with quiet defeat. Ethan watched her go with arms crossed tightly across his chest. He told himself he was doing the right thing, protecting his son, controlling the situation, restoring order. But something in his chest pulsed, an uneasy throb that refused to settle. Behind him, Liam whispered, barely audible, "Dad, please don't be mad at her." Ethan turned sharply. "She hid this from me. She put you in danger. That is not something I can ignore." Liam's lip trembled. His shoulders curled inward. "I asked her to help me. I asked her not to tell you." That admission hit harder than Ethan expected. A small sting right under the ribs. "Why would you do that?" Ethan asked, his voice rising despite himself. "Why wouldn't you come to me?" Liam looked up, and his eyes, still wet, still afraid, held something else too. Something older. A sadness too deep for someone his age. "Because you don't listen," he whispered. The words struck Ethan like a physical blow. He opened his mouth, but nothing came out. The truth, spoken so softly, still carried the weight of a shouted accusation. Liam looked at the floor again, toes curled just slightly inside his sneakers. "You always say no. You always say I can't. But Maya, she said I could try. She said falling is okay if someone's there to help." "Falling is not okay," Ethan snapped. "You could get hurt." "I am hurt," Liam said, voice cracking. "I've been hurt for a long time." Ethan's breath caught. The garage felt suddenly too small, too dim, too heavy with memories he had spent years shoving aside. The hospital monitor beeping, the empty passenger seat, the doctor saying the words "long recovery," his wife's hand turning cold in his own. He blinked it away. "This conversation is over," he muttered, his tone final. even though his heart felt anything but resolved. "We're going upstairs." But Liam didn't move, didn't reach for him, didn't even look up. Instead, he stared at the walker, its metal frame glinting softly under the lamp. The chalk lines, the path he'd almost finished, the life he'd tasted for just a few minutes before it was ripped away. "Dad," he whispered. "I was happy." Ethan froze mid-step. Those 3 words, simple, trembling, childlike, echoed through the garage like a confession made in a cathedral. He turned, just enough to see his son's face. Tears clung to Liam's lashes, catching the yellow light and turning into tiny, shimmering beads. "I was happy," Liam repeated, voice barely audible. "For the first time in a long time." Ethan felt something inside him fracture. Maya, who had reached the door, stopped with her hand hovering over the knob. She didn't turn around. She didn't dare. But she couldn't force herself to leave. Not yet. Not while Liam's broken voice filled the space behind her. The garage was still again. Air held in suspension. A fragile moment that might shatter if anyone breathed too hard. Ethan finally spoke, but the strength in his voice had thinned, frayed around the edges. "We'll talk about this later." Liam shook his head. "You're not listening again." "Maya needs to leave," Ethan insisted. "She didn't do anything wrong," Liam said, louder this time. "She was helping me live." The words hit Ethan harder than any doctor's grim prognosis ever had. Helping me live. Maya's eyes squeezed shut. Her fingers curled around the doorframe, knuckles pale. Ethan steadied himself, pulling up his walls again. "We're done here," he said, forcing firmness into his voice. "Come along, Liam." He waited. Liam didn't move. In the silence stretching between them, Ethan felt something shifting, something he couldn't fully understand. But instead of reaching toward it, he stepped back instinctively, retreating to rules, control, order. "Let's go," he repeated. At last, Liam reached for the walker, slowly, deliberately. He refused help. Ethan swallowed hard as he watched his son pull himself upright, shaking, terrified, stubbornly determined. It took several seconds for Liam to steady himself. He took one tiny step, then another. Each step echoed like a heartbeat, but not toward Ethan, toward Maya. And when he reached her, he placed his small hand on her arm. "I'm going with her," Liam whispered. The room froze. Even the lamp seemed to stop buzzing. Ethan's voice, when it came, was barely a breath. "Liam, what did you just say?" The boy looked at him, tears streaming silently down his cheeks, and answered with a courage Ethan had never seen in him before. "I don't want to be near someone who takes away the only thing that made me feel alive." And in that single moment, Ethan realized this wasn't a tantrum. This was heartbreak. And he was the one who caused it. For a long moment, Ethan Cole couldn't move. His feet stayed rooted to the cold concrete, as if the foundation of the garage had grown hands and clamped around his ankles. The air felt thin, sharp. The yellow lamp flickered overhead, casting trembling shadows on the 3 figures frozen in the room. Liam clutching Maya's sleeve, Maya gripping the doorway as if holding herself upright, and Ethan standing rigid, towering but somehow smaller than ever. "Liam," Ethan said at last, barely forming the word. His voice cracked, thin around the edges. "You don't mean that." Liam's face twisted, torn between tears and the courage it took to speak truth to the man who frightened him more than he wanted to admit. "I do mean it," he whispered. You made everything good stop." The blow landed harder than anything in Ethan's life. He felt it physically, a hollow punch right under his ribs. Something inside him recoiled, refusing the truth, refusing the idea that his attempt to protect his son had turned into the very thing causing him pain. Maya gently squeezed Liam's hand as he struggled to breathe through his sobs. She didn't say a word. Her eyes stayed down, shoulders stiff with fear. She'd been here before. Different rich houses, different rules, different voices shouting at her mother. She knew how these moments unfolded. She knew how quickly kindness could be twisted into blame. "Let go of him," Ethan said quietly, his tone ice cold. "Now!" Maya froze in place. Her fingers loosened on instinct but didn't drop away completely. She looked like someone caught between doing what she was told and doing what was right. Liam jerked closer to her. "No, Dad, don't talk to her like that." "Liam," Ethan warned. "No!" the boy cried louder. "Why do you hate her?" The question didn't come out angry. It came out broken, full of the kind of pain that made Ethan's breath hitch. "Hate her?" Ethan repeated, stunned. "Liam, I don't hate anyone." "You look at her like you do," Liam whispered. "Like she's nothing." Maya blinked rapidly, blinking back tears, blinking back the memories of janitor closets she'd hidden in while adults argued about whether her kind belonged in their homes. She straightened her shoulders the tiniest bit. The chalk on her cheek caught the light like a fragile badge of bravery. Ethan looked at her now, really looked at her. The rolled-up sleeves, the scuffed sneakers, the old denim jacket she'd flung over his camera. She was just a kid. Just a good-hearted kid trying to help his son, but his fear, his old, unyielding fear, spiked again. "You put him at risk," Ethan said, trying to steady his voice. "You could have hurt him. He could have fallen." Maya took a breath that quivered. "Sir, I wouldn't have let him fall." "You can't make that. Promise," Ethan snapped. "I already did." A simple answer, soft, true. It hit him harder than expected. Liam pulled in a shaky breath. "Dad, she listens. She doesn't treat me like glass. She doesn't tell me what I can't do. She helps me try." Ethan's hands tightened at his sides. The words were so familiar, so painfully familiar. His wife used to tell him the same thing. Let him try. Don't protect him from life. He hadn't listened then either. He turned away, unable to face the ache building behind his eyes. "I can't allow this," he said. "It's dangerous, and it's not her place." Maya stepped back at those words. Not her place. She'd heard that phrase more times than she could count. At school, at grocery stores, in job interviews, in quiet, cutting whispers from people who didn't even bother lowering their voices around her. Her hands curled into fists. But it wasn't anger that filled her expression. It was hurt. Deep, old hurt. "I know my place, sir," she said softly. "Trust me, I always know my place." The resignation in her tone made Liam gasp. He turned to her, eyes wide with disbelief and something like indignation on her behalf. "No," Liam said fiercely. "Your place is with me. Your place is helping me walk. Your place is—" "Liam," Ethan cut in, stepping forward. "Enough." But it wasn't enough. Not for Liam. Not now. Not after 2 years of swallowing loneliness like medicine. "She's my friend," Liam said, his voice shaking but strong. "The only one I have." The lamplight flickered again, as if reacting to his confession. Ethan blinked hard. Friend. The word lodged in his throat. His son hadn't used that word in years. Maya's breath hitched, and she lowered her head, overwhelmed by the sincerity she felt she didn't deserve. "Liam," Ethan said slowly, "you have therapists, tutors, doctors." "Not friends," Liam shot back. "Nobody wants to be around the kid who can't walk right." The truth dropped like heavy stones at Ethan's feet. Stones made of guilt he'd tried to bury. Liam's tiny fingers dug into Maya's jacket sleeve. She doesn't see my wheelchair first, he whispered. She sees me. Maya's chest tightened. A quiet tear slid down her cheek before she could stop it. Ethan felt his throat close. He wasn't ready for this. He wasn't prepared for the raw honesty pouring out of his son. He looked away, jaw trembling, but Liam wasn't done. She told me I could reach the finish line, he said, because she believed in me. Ethan's eyes dropped to the chalk-drawn line on the ground. Smudged, forgotten, but powerful in what it represented. He felt dizzy. Dad, Liam whispered. Why can't you believe in me too? The question shattered whatever was left of Ethan's composure. His lips parted, but nothing came out. Not a defense. Not an apology. Just silence. Silence so thick it suffocated the room. And then it happened. The thing Ethan feared most. Liam gently let go of Maya's sleeve and looked him straight in the eye. If she leaves, Liam said in a trembling voice, you'll lose me too. Ethan's heart dropped out of his chest. What does that mean? He whispered. Liam wiped his face with the back of his hand, then looked down at his legs, still shaking, still weak, but bravely holding him upright with Maya by his side. It means, he said, voice breaking, I don't want to live in this house anymore, if I can't have one person who makes me feel alive. Ethan staggered. Maya gasped. The room went still as stone. And for the first time in 2 years, the powerful Ethan Cole looked genuinely frightened. It was not the kind of fear that came from danger. It wasn't the fear that made a man run. It was the kind that made a man freeze. A fear born from realization, from seeing something he didn't want to see. A truth too sharp to touch, but too loud to ignore. Liam stood trembling, his small hand still clenching Maya's sleeve, his chest rising in uneven shivers. His eyes glistened with a kind of pain that no doctor could diagnose. It wasn't physical. It wasn't something an MRI could catch. It was the sorrow of a child who had finally broken under the weight of being misunderstood. Maya felt him shaking and instinctively placed her hand over his, steadying him. The gesture was so gentle, so natural, that it felt like a warm light had been briefly kindled in the cold garage. Liam, Ethan said quietly, taking one slow step toward him. You're upset. I understand that. But you don't mean what you just said. I do, Liam whispered, voice trembling. I really do. Ethan's throat tightened. You're my son. This is your home. It doesn't feel like home to me, Liam said, the words spilling out faster now, as if they'd been waiting years to be spoken. Not anymore. Something inside Maya twisted. She didn't want to hear this. Not her. Not in front of her. Not when she knew her presence was the very spark of this painful moment. But Liam continued. You don't talk to me, he said. You talk about me. To doctors. To tutors. To people who come in here and treat me like I'm broken. Like I'm a glass thing that can't breathe too hard or move too fast. Liam, Ethan tried, but the dam had burst. And you look at me like you're scared, Liam cried. Scared every second. Scared of me trying. Scared of me falling. Scared of me getting hurt again. The child wiped his nose with his sleeve, breath shuddering as he pushed through each word. But I'm already hurt, Dad. I've been hurt since the accident, and nothing you're doing is making that better. Ethan's fingers twitched helplessly at his side. He had faced boardrooms full of ruthless men, attorneys with sharp tongues, and news reporters aiming to tear down his reputation. He'd never felt as unprepared as he did standing in front of his own son. Maya watched, her heart pounding so hard it felt like it echoed through her ribs. She wasn't supposed to witness this. She wasn't supposed to stand between a father and son unraveling right in front of her. Maybe I could have been okay, Liam continued, voice cracking in a painful, childlike way. But I got so lonely, Dad. So lonely I couldn't breathe sometimes. Maya's hand tightened around his without thinking. You don't understand what it feels like to watch other kids play from inside a window, Liam whispered, or to feel like everyone is waiting for you to break. He looked up at Ethan. Those eyes that once held nothing but admiration now filled with betrayal and exhaustion. But Maya doesn't look at me like that, he said. She laughs with me. She listens. She tells me I can try, and I... His breath broke. His shoulders shook. Then it happened. A sound tore from his chest. Not a sob, not a whimper, but a cry so raw, so heart-wrenching, that it bounced off the concrete walls and made the air itself shudder. Maya gasped and instinctively wrapped her arms around him from behind, steadying him before he crumpled under the weight of his own emotion. Her chin trembled as she whispered, "It's okay. It's okay, Liam. I'm right here." The boy sobbed harder, gripping Maya's wrist like his life depended on it. Ethan stepped forward, shaken to his core. "Liam, son, please stop crying." But the tears kept falling, tears born from 2 years of swallowed grief, unsaid words, silent nights, and the suffocating pressure of trying to be strong in front of a father who only knew how to be strong for him, not with him. Maya rocked him gently, the way older sisters soothe their baby brothers. She didn't care about her place. She didn't care about rules or boundaries. Her heart knew only one thing. A child in pain deserved comfort. But Ethan saw something different. He saw his son clinging to another person, choosing another person, and it pierced him. He reached out with a trembling hand. "Liam, come here." "No!" Liam cried, twisting away. "You'll take her away from me. You always take away the things that make me feel normal." Maya stiffened. Ethan's hand dropped to his side. The boy looked utterly broken. Tear-streaked face, trembling body, voice frayed and small. "I don't want Maya to leave," he whispered. "She's the only part of my day that doesn't feel empty." The words stunned the room. Maya choked on a breath. No one had ever needed her like this. Not a friend, not a neighbor, certainly not the child of a billionaire. She'd always lived on the edges of other people's lives, doing good quietly, fading into the background so her mother wouldn't lose another job. But here was Liam, clinging to her like she was the one piece of hope he had left. "We're done for today," Ethan said quietly, a brittle edge on his voice. "Maya, step back. I'll take my son upstairs." Maya opened her mouth, but Liam screamed, a sound full of terror. "No!" His voice cracked through the garage like lightning. "You're not taking me anywhere unless she comes too." "Liam," Ethan reached again, but the boy jerked away so violently that Maya had to grab the walker before it tipped. "I won't go with you," Liam shouted. "I won't go anywhere with you." Silence crashed down again. Maya's heart broke at the sight of Liam. Tiny, trembling, terrified, she swallowed her fear and spoke softly. "Liam, honey, it's okay." "No," he whispered fiercely. "It's not." He turned back to Ethan. "You don't get it," he said, voice shaking. "You think keeping me safe is the same thing as keeping me alive. But it's not. It's not the same." His tears slowed just enough for him to look his father directly in the eyes. "When I'm with Maya, I feel like I'm still me." The truth hit Ethan with the force of a collapsing world. Behind his stern exterior, behind his carefully built walls, something fragile cracked. "Dad," Liam whispered, "why can't you let me have one person who makes me feel alive?" The weight of the question nearly brought Ethan to his knees. Before he could respond, Footsteps echoed in the hallway outside the garage. Hurried, panicked. Denise appeared in the doorway, apron dusted with flour, eyes wide with fear. "What's going on?" she gasped. "I heard shouting. Maya, baby, what did you do?" Maya stepped back instinctively, her shoulders pulling inward. "Mama, I didn't. She helped me," Liam cut in, voice fierce despite the tears. "She's my friend. She didn't do anything wrong." Denise looked from her daughter to Ethan's hardened face, and her own expression collapsed. "Oh God," she whispered. "Maya, what have you gotten yourself into?" Denise's voice trembled as she stepped fully into the doorway. Her apron was still dusted with flour from kneading dough in the kitchen, and her hands were shaking so badly she had to grip the frame to steady herself. She looked small, smaller than Maya had ever seen her, caught between fear for her daughter and fear of the man whose house they worked in. "Mama," Maya breathed, her voice cracking. "I didn't mean—" But Denise didn't let her finish. She rushed forward, gently but firmly pulling Maya behind her, shielding her like she had since the day her daughter learned the world would not always be kind to girls who looked like her. "I'm so sorry, Mr. Cole," Denise said quickly, her words stumbling over each other. "She didn't mean any harm. I'll handle this. I swear I will. Maya, apologize. Now." "She doesn't need to apologize," Liam shouted. All eyes swiveled toward him. The boy stood trembling, his cheeks blotchy from crying, his hair plastered to his forehead with sweat, his tiny hands gripping the sides of his walker. Even his posture was defiant, leaning forward, shaking, desperate to be heard. "Liam," Ethan began, trying to take control of the moment. But the boy cut him off, voice quivering with a fierce, desperate fire. "She didn't do anything wrong. She made me happy. She helped me walk." Denise's eyes widened in shock. She turned to Maya, disbelief mixing with fear. "Baby, you didn't—" Maya swallowed hard. "Mama, he asked me to." Ethan stepped forward, tension radiating from him like heat off asphalt. "It was reckless," he said sharply, "and it's over now. I won't allow this to happen again." Denise nodded immediately, tugging Maya closer. "Of course, sir, I understand. I'll make sure—" "No!" Liam cried, voice cracking mid-syllable. "Don't take her away!" His hands trembled on the walker's handles. His legs shook so violently it looked like they might give out any second. Maya instinctively moved toward him, but Ethan's arm shot up to block her path. "That's enough," he said, tone cold and final. But the garage was no longer a place where his authority went unquestioned, not when his son had finally found the courage to speak. "Dad," Liam whispered, breath hitching. "Why are you doing this to me?" Ethan froze. He wasn't prepared for that question. Not from his child. Not delivered with such raw, aching confusion. "I'm protecting you," he said. But even he could hear how weak the words sounded. "By taking away the only person who cares how I feel?" Liam shot back, tears pooling in his eyes again. Ethan's jaw tightened. "That's not true. I care how you feel." Liam shook his head. "No. You care if I break." The sentence hit the room like a dropped weight. Denise gasped softly, Maya's lips parted, her breath catching. Ethan swallowed hard, his throat suddenly dry as paper. "You look at me like I'm made of glass," Liam whispered. "Like you're scared I'll shatter if I laugh too hard, or move too fast, or even try." He took a breath so shaky it nearly folded him in half. "But Maya doesn't look at me like that. She looks at me like I'm still Liam." Ethan blinked hard, his vision blurring for a moment as he tried to process the words. He opened his mouth, closed it, struggled for something to say that wouldn't make everything worse. Denise pulled Maya closer. "Mr. Cole, sir, Please don't punish the children for this. My daughter didn't mean to cross any lines." "It's not just about lines," Ethan said, voice cracking with barely controlled frustration. "It's about safety, boundaries, responsibilities. It's about control," Liam whispered, cutting him off. Ethan turned slowly. "What did you say?" Liam's chin trembled. "You want to control everything I do. Every second. Every breath. You don't let me try anything. You don't let me fail. You don't let me live." "Liam, and I'm so tired of it," the boy said, voice rising with each word. "I'm tired of sitting in that stupid chair all day. I'm tired of watching other kids run while I sit behind a window. I'm tired of people talking about me like I'm some broken thing." His tears fell harder. "And I'm tired of you not seeing me." Maya felt her heart crack in her chest. She'd never seen Liam this exposed, this raw, this heartbreakingly honest. Ethan took a step backward, actually staggered backward, as if the words had physically struck him. "That's not fair," he murmured. "It is fair," Liam whispered. "It's the only fair thing I've said in a long time." For a moment, no one spoke. The lamp buzzed overhead. The chalk lines on the floor seemed to glow faintly in the dim light. Symbols of a freedom Liam had tasted for just a few minutes before it was snatched away. Denise, her voice trembling, touched Maya's shoulder. "We need to go," she said softly. Liam's head jerked up. "No!" Denise flinched at the force of the word. "Maya stays," Liam said fiercely. Ethan straightened. "Liam, she will not—" "Dad!" Liam said, cutting him off one final time. His voice softened to a fragile, trembling thread. "If she leaves this house, I'll feel alone again." Ethan's heart clenched violently. "Son, I don't want to feel alone anymore," Liam whispered. The boy looked utterly drained, as if speaking those words had taken everything inside him. And then, without warning, his legs buckled. Maya lunged forward. Ethan lunged too. Both reached him at the same time. Both caught him before he hit the ground. And in the stillness that followed, with Liam sobbing quietly in both their arms, Ethan realized the terrifying truth. He was losing his son. Not to illness, not to injury, but to loneliness. A loneliness he had helped build with his own hands. And for the first time in 2 years, Ethan felt something he hadn't allowed himself to feel since the night of the accident. He felt the edges of guilt sharp enough to draw blood. He knelt there on the cold concrete, one arm wrapped around his son's trembling body, the other still supporting the walker that had nearly collapsed beneath him. Maya knelt on Liam's other side, her hands steady despite the fear still racing through her. Denise hovered behind them, frozen between the instinct to protect her daughter and the terror of crossing a line she couldn't afford to cross. For several long seconds, the only sound in the garage was Liam's uneven breathing, little broken gasps that stabbed the air like splintered glass. Ethan could feel each one against his chest, the weight of them, the hurt inside them, the accusation beneath them. "Maya," Denise whispered shakily, "step back, baby. Let Mr. Cole take him." But Maya didn't move. She looked at Liam, the way his fingers curled into her sleeve, the way he pressed his forehead against her arm, the way he struggled not to sob again. And she simply couldn't. Not when he needed her. Not when she had spent years helping people who had no one else. Not when this fragile boy was hurting in a way she recognized far too well. "Mama, he's scared," Maya whispered back. "I can't just walk away." Ethan heard it. The softness, the sincerity, the kind of compassion that couldn't be faked. The kind he'd forgotten existed outside of hospital staff who followed charts and protocols. He felt his throat tighten again. But he couldn't drown in feeling. Not yet. Not when he'd nearly watched his son fall. Not when the chaos of the moment still pulsed through his veins. He gently shifted Liam to sit more securely against the walker. "Easy," Ethan murmured, his voice low. "I've got you, buddy." But Liam flinched. It was small, almost invisible, but Ethan felt it. A tiny flinch, like a wounded animal unsure whether the person reaching toward them will comfort or cage them. The flinch turned that guilt into something deeper, something that felt like grief. "Liam," Ethan whispered, "look at me." But the boy kept his face buried in Maya's arm. Maya waited a moment, then spoke softly. "Liam, your dad's talking to you." Liam didn't move. Ethan's heart tightened like a fist. He reached out and gently touched his son's back. "I'm right here, son. I'm not mad anymore." That made Liam lift his head just an inch, not because he believed it, but because he needed it to be true. "Maya," Denise said again, firmer this time. "Sweetheart, please. You're going to get us in trouble." Maya finally looked up at her mother, and the look in her eyes made Denise's breath catch. It wasn't defiance. It wasn't disrespect. It was a heartbreaking mixture of fear, resolve, and something Denise hadn't seen in her daughter for a long time. A sense of purpose. "Mama," Maya said, voice trembling, "I can't leave him like this." Denise's hand pressed to her chest. "Baby, I know you care. I know you helped him. But we can't stay here if Mr. Cole says—" "He didn't hurt me," Liam suddenly whispered, still clutching Maya's hand. "She didn't do anything wrong." Ethan exhaled sharply, rubbing a hand over his face. "I didn't say she hurt you." "You acted like she did," Liam said. The words were quiet, but they cut deep. Ethan closed his eyes. He could feel Maya's gaze on him now too, careful, frightened, uncertain, but not hateful. The girl had no hate in her, only fear for the consequences and love for someone who needed her. When Ethan opened his eyes again, the garage looked different, not physically. The lamp still flickered, the chalk still smudged the floor. The air still smelled faintly of concrete dust and old motor oil. But something inside it had shifted. The walls didn't look like protection anymore. They looked like limitation, a cage disguised as a mansion. Ethan stood slowly, lifting Liam with him. The boy's body sagged against him, exhausted. He felt so small in Ethan's arms, thin, fragile, trying so hard to hold himself together. "Let's go upstairs," Ethan murmured. "No," Liam whispered. It wasn't loud. It wasn't angry. But it was absolute. Ethan stiffened. "Liam," he said carefully, "you need rest." "I won't go unless she comes." Maya's breath caught. Denise's grip on her daughter tightened. Ethan's pulse jumped. "This isn't her place," Ethan said, falling back on old patterns. But the words felt different now. Wrong. Hollow. Because he suddenly saw what they did to Maya. To a young girl who had probably heard them in 100 different forms her whole life. And he saw what they did to Liam, who heard those same words as, "She doesn't belong in your life." Ethan sighed shakily. "Liam, this isn't fair to Maya." "She didn't ask for anything," Liam whispered. "I did." Ethan hesitated. Then Maya stepped forward just half a step, voice barely audible. "Mr. Cole, I don't want to go upstairs. Not like this. But I won't leave him alone if he's crying like that." Her honesty was disarming, pure, vulnerable, not assertive, not demanding, just true. Denise squeezed her shoulder. "Baby, I don't think—" But Maya kept her eyes on Ethan. "Sir, I know I crossed a line. I know I shouldn't have hidden anything from you." Her voice cracked. But Liam, he's lonely, and he tried so hard, and I couldn't let him do it alone. Ethan stared at her, really stared. For the first time, he didn't see the maid's daughter. He saw a teenager who had stepped into a gap he hadn't been able to fill himself. He looked down at his son, who clung to her hand like it was a lifeline, and he felt something in his chest collapse. "Fine," Ethan said quietly. "Just come upstairs with us." Denise gasped softly. Maya froze. Liam looked up, hope trembling in his eyes. "But just for now," Ethan added quickly, trying to regain control of the moment. "Only until he settles down." But everyone in the room knew it was more than a temporary concession. It was the first wall beginning to crack. He reached for Liam again. "Come on, son. Let's get you upstairs." But Liam didn't reach for him. Instead, he gripped the walker and forced his legs to straighten again, shaking, weak, determined. "Maya," he whispered, "help me walk upstairs." The request was so quiet it barely reached anyone's ears, but it reached Ethan's heart like a lightning strike. He opened his mouth to object, to say the stairs were dangerous, that Liam was exhausted, that this was too much, but the words caught in his throat. Because he understood. Walking wasn't just about movement. It was about dignity, control, choice. Something Liam hadn't had in a long, long time. Maya stepped beside him. "You sure you can do it?" Liam nodded. "I don't want to be carried," he whispered. "Not tonight." Ethan blinked back the sting behind his eyes. Maya steadied the walker on one side. Ethan instinctively reached for the other, but stopped, uncertain. Liam looked at both of them, and what he said next was quiet, gentle, yet it shook the room more deeply than any scream. "I need you both." And so, for the first time since the accident, father and friend walked Liam forward together, three shaking souls moving through the doorway, leaving behind the half-erased chalk finish line, and stepping into a night that would change everything. They moved slowly up the wide hallway of the mansion, the soft glow of sconces painting warm gold across the polished wood floors. The house, usually pristine and quiet, felt different tonight, heavy, watchful, as if the walls themselves were listening to every breath. Ethan walked on one side of the walker, Maya on the other. Liam took each step carefully, his legs trembling beneath him, but he pushed forward with more determination than strength. Denise trailed behind them, wringing her hands, looking as though she might collapse at any moment. She couldn't understand how they'd gone from kneading bread dough in the kitchen to witnessing her child walk through the center of a billionaire's home like she belonged there. She didn't know whether to pray, to cry, or to run. "Almost there," Maya whispered, her voice steady despite her pounding heart. Liam nodded, though his breathing was ragged. Ethan stayed close enough to catch him, but tried, really tried, not to hover. The boy's earlier words echoed mercilessly through his head. "You don't see me." He didn't know how to rewrite years of fear-driven parenting in a single moment, but he could try. He had to try. They reached the bottom of the grand staircase, its white marble steps gleaming under chandelier light. The sight of the stairs made Liam wobble. "We can take the elevator," Ethan suggested quickly. "It's safer." Liam shook his head. "No, I want to try a few steps." Ethan felt his pulse jump. "Liam." Maya gently placed her hand on Liam's back, grounding him. "Just show us how far you can go," she said softly. "We'll stop whenever you say." Ethan swallowed hard. This girl, this 17-year-old from West End with chalk still clinging to her skin. She knew how to speak to his son better than he did. Liam lifted his foot, touched it to the first step, and pressed upward. His body trembled, but he made it. Then another, then a third. By the fourth, his legs buckled. Maya caught his arm, Ethan caught his waist. Between the two of them, they lowered him carefully onto the nearest step. "You did great," Maya breathed. Liam slumped against the railing, exhausted. I wanted to make it farther." Ethan knelt in front of him. "You took 4 steps," he said softly. "That's 4 more than yesterday. 4 more than last week. 4 more than I thought you ever would again." The honesty of that last sentence slipped out before he could stop it, and Liam heard it. Really heard it. Maya looked between the two of them, sensing something shifting beneath the words. Ethan took a slow breath. He looked down at his hands. Hands that once held his son through hospital nights and physical therapy sessions. Hands that had tightened into fists of fear since the accident. Hands that had forgotten how to comfort. He placed one gently on Liam's knee. "Son, I owe you an apology." The hallway fell quiet. Denise stopped fidgeting. Maya stopped breathing. Liam blinked in surprise. "For what?" Ethan's voice cracked. "For not listening. For not hearing you. For letting my fear make me so hard to be around." He met his son's eyes, really met them, for the first time in a long time. "I thought I was protecting you," Ethan whispered, "but I was trapping you. And I'm sorry. I'm so, so sorry." The words hung in the air like the first raindrops on a dry sidewalk, soft, hesitant, but unmistakable. Liam stared at him, stunned. Tears welled in his eyes again, but this time they didn't fall from pain. They fell from relief, like something inside him had loosened for the first time in 2 years. "Dad," he whispered, voice trembling. "I just wanted you to trust me." Ethan nodded. "I know, and I want to learn how to do that again." A sob rose in Liam's throat. He covered his face with his hands, overwhelmed. Maya rubbed his shoulder gently, offering quiet comfort. Denise watched the scene with tears spilling down her cheeks, her hand pressed to her heart. After a moment, Ethan turned to Maya. He looked at her with an emotion she hadn't seen from him once since they began working there. Not anger, not suspicion, not cold superiority. Gratitude. "Maya," Ethan said softly, "I owe you an apology too." Maya's eyes widened. "Me?" "Yes," he said. "I spoke to you like you were a problem, like you had no right to care about my son. I didn't see what you were really doing." He swallowed hard, emotion rising like a wave. "You gave him something I couldn't," he continued. "Hope, joy, the courage to try." Maya froze. She didn't know what to say. Her entire life she'd been taught to stay invisible, to never expect kindness from people like Ethan Cole, to apologize first, breathe later. I was just trying to help him," she murmured. "And you did," Ethan said. "More than you know." The words struck her chest like a soft blow. Denise covered her mouth with her fingertips, tears streaking down her apron. Ethan turned back to Liam. "I want to fix this. I want to make things right." Liam hiccuped, wiping at his eyes. "Does that mean Maya can stay?" Ethan hesitated. Every instinct in him still buzzed with fear, with visions of Liam falling, getting hurt, being rushed back to the hospital. But then he looked at the girl beside his son, the girl who had risked her job, her safety, and her dignity to help Liam walk when no one else believed he could. And he knew there was only one answer. "Yes," Ethan said quietly, "she can stay." Liam sagged in relief. Maya's eyes filled with stunned disbelief. Denise pressed a trembling hand over her heart as if steadying it. "But," Ethan added gently, "we're going to do this safely, together. No more hiding, no more secrets. We take care of Liam as a team. You, me, Maya, All of us. Maya nodded vigorously. Yes, sir. I can do that. Liam let out a shaky laugh, one that sounded like the beginning of healing. Ethan reached out and brushed the hair from his son's forehead in a gesture he hadn't made in a long time. And Liam didn't pull away this time. For a moment, the tension in the hallway melted. The walls seemed to exhale. The air felt warmer. Then Ethan stood and said softly, "Let's get you upstairs, buddy." Liam shook his head. "Dad?" "Yes?" The boy took a breath. "Can Maya help me to my room?" Ethan's chest tightened, but after a beat, he nodded. "Of course." And so the three of them continued their slow climb up the stairs, Liam between the two people who had become mirrors for everything broken and everything ready to be repaired. But none of them knew that the biggest moment, the moment that would change everything forever, was still waiting above them, hidden in the quiet of the night. The hallway on the second floor was dim, lit only by a single sconce near Liam's bedroom. Soft amber light spilled across the hardwood, catching dust motes that drifted like tiny fireflies. The house felt different up here, quieter, older, like a memory waiting to be touched. Ethan stayed close as Liam inched forward with the walker, Maya mirroring each movement on the other side. Denise followed behind them, still wringing her apron. She didn't dare speak, afraid the fragile peace might shatter with one wrong word. When they reached the threshold of Liam's room, Maya glanced at Ethan for permission. He nodded, though the gesture cost him something. He stepped back, allowing her to guide Liam through the doorway first. Inside, the room was softly lit by a nightlight shaped like a moon. Liam's bed sat near a large window overlooking the backyard. A telescope gathered dust in the corner. Books piled high on a small shelf, many untouched since the accident. The walls, once painted with stars and glowing planets, now looked muted, fading with time and sadness. "It feels different," Maya whispered. "Peaceful." "Quiet," Liam added. "Sometimes too quiet." Ethan winced without meaning to. Maya helped Liam sit carefully on the edge of his bed. His legs trembled as he lowered himself, but the moment he let go of the walker, he let out a long, tired sigh. The kind children shouldn't have to know. "Hey," Maya said gently, brushing the curls off his forehead. "You did something big tonight." Liam looked up at her, eyes still red. "Did I?" "You walked out of that garage," she said. "You walked up the hall, up the stairs, and you stood up for yourself." Liam managed a tiny smile, shy, uncertain, but real. Ethan stood at the foot of the bed, his hands clasped, unsure where to place himself. Every instinct told him to take control, to give instructions, to manage, but he forced himself not to. He stood back, watching the bond between his son and this girl he'd misjudged so deeply, unfold like something delicate and rare. Maya adjusted Liam's pillows, then pulled his blanket up to his lap. Her movements were natural, practiced, yet gentle in a way that made Ethan's throat tighten. "You need anything else?" she asked softly. Liam shook his head. "Just stay for a minute?" Maya glanced at Ethan again. He nodded. "Go ahead." She sat beside Liam, close enough that their shoulders touched. Her presence steadied him like a lighthouse beam in fog. Denise, standing awkwardly near the door, cleared her throat. "Mr. Cole, if you don't need anything more, Maya and I should—" "No," Liam interrupted quickly. "Don't go." Denise blinked. "Honey, this is your room. We shouldn't—" "Please," Liam whispered. The plea was too soft, too sincere. Denise hesitated, then stepped farther inside, leaning against the wall near the dresser. Ethan didn't stop her. In fact, he stepped aside to give her more space. Maya took Liam's hand gently. "What's going on in that head of yours?" Liam looked down at their joined hands. I thought walking again would make me feel brave, he said quietly. But it just made me feel scared. Maya's voice softened. Everybody feels scared before something big. And today was big, Liam whispered. I didn't know I could do it. I didn't know I could even try. Ethan's breath caught. He had told Liam hundreds of times what he couldn't do, but never what he could. I didn't know you could either, Ethan said gently, stepping closer. Liam stared at him. But I should have, Ethan continued. I should have trusted you more. A silence settled over the room, tender and heavy. Liam's voice cracked. Dad, do you really mean that? Ethan swallowed hard. Yes, and I know it'll take time for you to believe me. But I want to try, Liam. I want to learn how to be the kind of father you deserve. Liam blinked rapidly, tears rising again. But this time, they weren't from anguish. Maya nudged him gently. Sounds like he's trying. Liam nodded slowly, wiping his eyes. Denise looked at Ethan then, really looked, and for the first time since she entered the house, her posture shifted. Her shoulders softened. Her guard lowered, even if just an inch. She saw a father stripped of pride, reaching for his child with trembling hands. Mr. Cole, she said quietly, thank you for hearing him. Ethan nodded once, humbled. For a moment, the four of them simply breathed together, the quiet night settling around them like a blanket. Then Ethan cleared his throat. I want to make something clear. Maya and Denise stiffened. I'm not just apologizing, Ethan said carefully. I want to fix things, not temporarily, not halfway. The tension in the room thickened, every set of eyes locked on him. I want both of you to stay, he said softly. Not as staff who live in fear of losing their job every day. Not as people who feel out of place, but as part of our team. Part of helping Liam get better. Denise's lips parted in shock. Sir, what do you mean? I mean, Ethan continued, forcing emotion past the tightness in his throat. I want to provide better for both of you. A safer living space. Better pay. Opportunities for Maya. You've both done more for my son than any doctor or tutor. Maya froze. What? You helped him walk, Ethan said. You gave him a reason to try again. And I want to support that. I want to support you. Denise's hand flew to her mouth as she whispered, Lord have mercy. Maya stared at Ethan as if he had spoken a foreign language. Why would you do that? For us? Ethan looked at his son. Because you gave him back something he lost, Ethan said quietly. And because I think you deserve more than what life has given you so far. Maya's eyes filled with tears. She tried desperately to blink away. Liam squeezed her hand. See? Dad's learning. Maya let out a shaky laugh, and Ethan chuckled softly despite himself. But then Liam frowned and whispered, Dad, does this mean you won't take her away anymore? Ethan knelt beside his son and placed a steady hand on his shoulder. No, he said softly. I'm not taking Maya away. Liam's breath shuddered with relief. Ethan continued. Not tonight, not tomorrow, not ever again, unless she wants to go. Maya's eyes widened. She pressed a hand over her heart, overcome. Thank you, she whispered. Ethan shook his head. No. Thank you. Another soft silence settled over them. A good silence. A healing silence. Liam lay back on his pillows, exhaustion sinking into him like warm sand. Maya smoothed the blanket over him. You should sleep. Will you stay until I do? He asked. Of course, she whispered. Ethan nodded. I'll be right outside if you need anything. As Ethan and Denise stepped into the hallway, leaving Maya and Liam in the soft glow of the moon lamp, Ethan's voice dropped to a low murmur. Denise, there's something I want to talk to you about. Something important. Denise turned, eyes wary. Yes, Mr. Cole? Ethan exhaled slowly. I've been doing some thinking tonight, he said, and I want to offer you something. Something more permanent, more secure. Denise's breath caught. More secure? Ethan nodded. I want you and Maya to move into the guest house on the property. She nearly dropped her apron. Move in? She stammered. Sir, are you sure? Yes, Ethan said firmly. I want you here, both of you, safe, close, and appreciated. Denise stared at him as if afraid she'd imagined the words. But she hadn't. And when Ethan stepped away to check on Liam again, Denise pressed both hands to her face and let out one soft, overwhelmed sob. She had no idea that an even bigger revelation, one that would rewrite the past, was waiting for her downstairs in a dusty storage cabinet Ethan hadn't opened in years. A revelation that would explain everything. A revelation that would bring the final twist neither family saw coming. Downstairs, the mansion was silent except for the faint hum of the refrigerator and the soft ticking of the grandfather clock in the foyer. Midnight had deepened into the kind of quiet that feels almost sacred. Ethan walked slowly toward the storage room off the kitchen, a small side space no one touched anymore. Not the staff, not the cleaners, not him. It was the room his wife used to organize back when she was alive, back when Liam still ran down hallways, back when laughter didn't echo like a memory. Ethan paused at the door, hand resting against the cool metal knob. He hadn't stepped inside since the funeral. He exhaled shakily, turned the knob, and let the door creak open. The smell hit him first. Dust, old cardboard, faint traces of lavender, his wife's favorite cleaning scent, and something else, something like time frozen in the dark. He reached for the pull-chain light, giving it a careful tug. A single bulb flickered to life overhead, illuminating shelves lined with forgotten objects. Children's drawings, cookbooks, holiday decorations, photo albums. And in the corner, tucked beneath an old quilt, was a small metal lockbox he hadn't touched since the night paramedics took his wife away. His fingers trembled as he pulled it free. The box was heavier than he remembered. Colder. He carried it to the center table and sat down. His heart thumped with a slow, heavy dread as he pressed the latch. It clicked open with a soft metallic sigh. Inside lay memories he had avoided for 2 years. A broken wristwatch she had worn the night of the accident. A photograph of the 3 of them smiling on a beach. A folded hospital bracelet with Liam's name printed in tiny letters. And beneath those, something he had forgotten entirely. A police report. Old, water-stained, with a name circled in red ink. Ethan frowned, lifting it out. He recognized his wife's handwriting immediately. Looped, elegant, rushed in places. She had circled a line halfway down the page. Witness, Denise Walker. His heart lurched. He blinked once, twice. It couldn't be. He read further. The accident, the fire, the overturned sedan. And then he found it. A witness report stating that Denise Walker, then a line cook on her way home from the night shift, was the one who had pulled him out of the burning car before first responders arrived. His breath caught in his throat. Denise Walker. Maya's mother. The woman standing outside his son's room at that very moment, wringing her hands in uncertainty. The woman he had treated like disposable staff for years. The woman who had never said a word about this. His hands shook. The pages blurred as his eyes burned. He sank into the chair, stunned. She saved me. His mind raced backward in time, flashes of that night flickering like broken film. Rain hammering the soffon, windshield. Screech of tires, glass exploding. Heat, burning. A pair of hands dragging him out of the car. A blurry voice shouting for help. He had assumed it was a passing stranger. A good Samaritan he never got to thank. He'd even hired a private investigator. But the witness had been listed as unreachable. Address outdated. Details unclear. Because she had moved. Changed jobs. Taken care of her child alone. And fate brought her into his home years later, quietly, humbly, unnoticed. Ethan stood abruptly, the chair scraping the tile. His chest tightened with a strange mix of shock, shame, and something deeper, gratitude so fierce it hurt. He grabbed the lockbox and headed upstairs on unsteady legs. When he reached the second-floor hallway, he found Denise sitting on the bench outside Liam's door. Her apron was balled in her hands, eyes red from tears she didn't want anyone to see. Ethan held the box against his chest, staring at her in a way he never had before. "Denise," he said softly. She stood immediately. "Sir, Mr. Cole, I'm sorry if Maya or I did anything out of line tonight. Truly, Ethan shook his head. "Denise, why didn't you tell me?" She frowned. "Tell you what?" He stepped forward, opening the lockbox and holding the report toward her. "This," he whispered, "that you saved my life." Silence swallowed the hallway. Denise's eyes went wide. She lifted a hand to her mouth, breath trapped in her throat. She looked at the report like she was staring at a ghost. She whispered. "I didn't think you remembered me." "I didn't," Ethan admitted, voice thick. "Not until tonight." She swallowed hard. It wasn't something I thought mattered. I did what anyone would have done." "No," Ethan said, stepping closer, emotion shaking his words. "You did what no one else could have done in time. You pulled me out of that fire. You saved me. You saved Liam's father." Denise blinked back tears. I didn't want anything from it. I've never wanted anything from you." Ethan's voice softened to a whisper. "But I owe you everything." Denise looked down, overwhelmed. Tears spilled onto her apron. "Mr. Cole, please don't make a fuss. Life's been hard enough without people thinking I'm asking for something." Ethan exhaled, long and shaky. "You're not asking for anything. I'm giving it, gladly." Denise stared at him, unsure whether to fear this moment or fall into it. Ethan continued, his voice steadying. "You didn't just save my life. You saved Liam's father. And tonight, your daughter saved his spirit. I can never repay that. But I will try." He stepped back, giving her space. "I'm moving you and Maya into the guest house permanently. Rent-free, a safe home. And Maya will get full support for school. As far as I'm concerned, your family." Denise's knees buckled, and she caught herself on the wall. Her face crumpled with disbelief, gratitude, and years of exhaustion breaking free all at once. I don't know what to say," she whispered. "You don't have to say anything," Ethan replied. "Just let me do what I should have done years ago." At that moment, Liam's door opened softly. Maya peeked out, eyes swollen from crying earlier, but glowing with a calm warmth. Behind her, Liam lay in bed, sleepy but smiling. The first peaceful smile Ethan had seen so long. "Is everything okay?" Maya asked quietly. Ethan looked at her, this girl who had brought light back into his son's life. and felt a depth of gratitude he couldn't describe. "Yes," he said softly. "Everything is finally starting to be okay." As Maya stepped fully into the hallway, Liam called from behind her. "Dad, can she stay with me until I fall asleep?" Ethan smiled gently. "As long as she wants." Maya's face warmed with soft disbelief. Denise wiped her eyes, and Ethan, holding the lockbox of memories, realized that the people he had overlooked were the people fate had given him to heal the cracks in his life. The night was quiet again, but this time, it wasn't the quiet of loneliness. It was the quiet right before dawn, when everything broken begins to glow with the promise of repair. Soft blue light seeped through the tall windows as the first hint of morning touched the Cole estate. The sky outside was still dark, but the horizon glimmered with a new day, like someone had drawn a thin silver line between night and tomorrow. Ethan stood alone in the hallway for a moment, letting the silence settle over him. The lockbox was still in his hands, its weight no longer cold, but strangely grounding. Down the hall, he could hear Maya's low voice gently whispering a story to Liam, her words soft and warm like a lullaby. He took a breath, steady, deep, then walked toward the room. Inside, he found Liam already asleep, curled under his blanket, with his hand still loosely tangled in the sleeve of Maya's denim jacket draped across the edge of the bed. Maya sat beside him, head tilted slightly as she watched the boy's peaceful breathing. Her eyes were tired but kind. Denise stood in the corner, arms folded tightly, as if holding herself together. Ethan touched the doorframe and cleared his throat gently. Maya looked up. "He fell asleep about 5 minutes ago," she whispered. Ethan nodded, stepping inside. For the first time since the accident, he approached his son's bedside without the crushing weight of fear. Instead, he felt something softer, something that almost felt like hope. "He looks peaceful," Ethan murmured. Maya smiled. "He is. He really is." Ethan turned to her. "Thank you for staying with him." She shook her head. "I didn't do anything special." "Yes, you did," Ethan said quietly. "More than I ever knew how to." The girl looked down, cheeks warming with humility she didn't know how to hide. Ethan took a slow breath. "Maya, Denise, there's something I want you both to hear." Denise tensed. Maya straightened. He placed the lockbox on the dresser, opening it slowly so the contents caught the early light. "This is something I should have told you sooner," he said gently. "Something I only rediscovered tonight." He lifted the police report and handed it to Denise. Her hands trembled as she unfolded the paper she hadn't seen in nearly 20 years. Her eyes scanned the lines, and a soft, broken sound escaped her lips. "I didn't know you kept this," she whispered. "I didn't know it was you," Ethan replied. "Not until tonight." Maya glanced between them, confused. Denise wiped her eyes. "Baby, years ago when you were just a toddler, I pulled a man out of a burning car on the interstate. I never knew his name. I never met him again." She looked up at Ethan, tears shimmering. "And it turns out, it was your father." Maya's breath hitched. "Mom, you saved Mr. Cole?" "Yes," Ethan said softly. "She did. She saved my life. She saved Liam's father before he was even born." The weight of the revelation filled the room with something electric. A hush, a softness, a dawning clarity that connected two families in ways none of them had ever imagined. Maya's hand flew to her mouth. "Mama, why didn't you tell me?" Denise shook her head, voice trembling. "Because it wasn't about getting anything. I did what was right. And then, life went on." Ethan stepped closer. his voice full. I owe you a life, Denise. And these last few years, I've been too blind to see the people who mattered most. Denise's tears spilled over. Maya touched her mother's arm, overwhelmed. Ethan continued, his tone low and sincere. You gave me my life that night, and tonight, your daughter gave my son his. His gaze shifted to Maya, gentle, grateful. I want to make sure both of you have the opportunities you deserve. Security, a home, education, support. Not out of charity, but because this family wouldn't be whole without you. Maya blinked hard, unable to speak. Denise pressed a hand over her mouth again, sobbing quietly into her palm. Ethan turned back to Liam, brushing a hand over his hair as he slept. He needs you, Maya, he whispered. Not because I'm incapable, but because you reach him in a way I forgot how to. And I'm grateful, more than I can say. A quiet sniffle sounded behind him. Liam had woken, just barely, with sleep-heavy eyes. Dad? He murmured. Ethan crouched beside him. Hey, buddy. Liam blinked slowly. Are we all okay now? Ethan smiled, a real one, warm, unguarded. Yes, he whispered. We're more than okay. Liam's tired gaze drifted toward Maya and Denise. They're staying? Ethan nodded. As long as they want to. A relieved smile touched Liam's lips before his eyes fluttered shut again. Maya exhaled, shoulders sagging with gratitude. Denise covered her face and let out a long, shuddering breath that sounded like years of fear dissolving. Ethan stood slowly. I want us to start over, he said gently. Not as employer and staff, but as people who've saved each other in ways money never could. The room felt warmer now, softer, as if the air itself understood what had just shifted. Maya wiped the corner of her eye. We'd like that, she whispered. Denise nodded, swallowing back emotion. More than you know, sir. Ethan looked at them. Two people who had changed his world, one without ever meaning to, the other without ever knowing she had the power. Call me Ethan, he said quietly. A soft laugh, half disbelief, half relief, escaped Denise. Ethan, she corrected gently, testing the name. Maya smiled, her voice barely above a breath. Thank you, Ethan. For a moment they stood in silence, four people bound by one child's courage, one mother's sacrifice, and one young girl's unshakable kindness. Outside the window, the first rays of sunlight broke over the horizon, spilling gold across the backyard. Liam stirred again, whispering into the pillow, Dad, can we all play together tomorrow? Ethan's voice caught. Yes, buddy, we will. He didn't mean it as a promise for tomorrow. He meant it as a promise for the rest of their lives. In that quiet room filled with the first light of day, a billionaire realized what truly mattered. A mother finally received the recognition she never asked for. A young girl found someone who saw her heart, not her status. And a boy who had forgotten how to smile learned how to trust again. Love, it turned out, didn't come from money. It came from connection, from courage, from kindness in the most unexpected places. And as the sun rose higher, washing the room in warmth, Ethan knew, so the greatest treasures in life were the ones he almost overlooked. If this story touched your heart even a little, drop a simple comment below. Even a 1 or a 0 is enough to let us know you're here. Your engagement helps these stories reach more people who might need them. And don't forget to subscribe. There are many more powerful, life-changing stories coming your way. See you in the next one.